I never had that kind of experience in my life. And more than that, I did not even know how to weld. They all work in metal, all the teachers. So I rushed downstairs to the basement and I asked a technician to teach me how to weld quickly. They brought me prisoners to be my assistant. This kind of experience I never had in my life. I planned to finish the installation in 8 days. It's finished in 4 days. Until today, I don't know if I was the punishment or I was a special bonus to them to get out. And she said, I really like your proposal, but I really want the figures to be painted. I want to see color. I tried to explain to her that it will be superficial, and that was almost $1 million. And I said no. And that was it. I never, ever thought that art can have that kind of effect on people until I saw some people in tears. I never intended to do that. I never thought it would even reach that kind of point. But if I can bring that kind of joy to people, this is the best reward ever.
Welcome back to the Installation Art Podcast, the world's #1 and only podcast about installation art and the people who work with it. In this show, you will hear about the joys and challenges of the medium and get a behind-the-scenes look at the career and process of internationally renowned guests. I am your host, Anastasia Parmson. Our today's guest is an artist whose work I've admired for many years. Zadok Ben-David is an art world and real world veteran, an award-winning sculptor and installation artist based in London and Portugal. His practice moves effortlessly between delicate miniature work and monumental public installations, exploring themes of human nature, evolution, and memory. He represented Israel at the Venice Biennale in 1988 and has since participated in major biennales worldwide, as well as traveling the world to put up his installations in the most unlikely places. It is an absolute honor to introduce Zadok Ben-David. I hope it's not too early for you.
No. I get up at 6. It's 8:30.
Oh, great.
I've been up
You're a morning person.
Yeah, I am. Unfortunately, I don't sleep. I sleep about 5-6 hours.
Oh, wow. That's kind of my dream. I wish I could do that.
I wish I could sleep 7-8 hours. My dream is opposite. I don't mind swapping with you for a while.
Yeah, I would like to do that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you for taking the time to do this.
I'm happy. It just happened that I'm in London because I travel a lot. So it'll be easy from here. We're doing it from my home at the moment. And then I go to the studio.
Oh, great. Well, let's get straight into it. Let's start with a quick, easy round of questions just to warm up.
Okay.
How's your work-life balance?
First of all, I'm not working on the weekend at all, unless it's something urgent. So Saturday and Sundays, clean to do any other things, social, exhibition, other things that I want to do. Also, once the evening come, I finished. I work almost 9 to 5 at the studio, except when there is a pressure of meeting a deadline or something. I think it's pretty balanced. It used to be worse than that many years ago.
And when you're in the studio working, what's your favorite beverage to drink?
I drink Yemen coffee, which is quite spicy coffee. It is almost homemade. It's the bean roasted, not for long. So the color of the coffee, it's very strange, somewhere between green, yellow, and brown. And then it's got ginger, cinnamon, and quite a few additional spices. And it's pretty hot and waking you up. But in London, you really need it all the year. The temperature not that high. And you need to warm your stomach.
Interesting. And do you listen to anything in your studio while working?
Sometimes I listen, but most of the time I try not to. And I have several assistants working with me, my team, so need to pay attention to them. Sometimes I listen to podcasts if I'm just doing drawing or if I need to less concentrate.
What kind of podcasts do you like?
Most of them are political, unfortunately, global politics and politics of Middle East, where I come from.
Yeah.
Uh, Addicted to the news, unfortunately, which is pretty bad, especially nowadays. What happened in America just take your attention, even if you don't want.
Yeah, I know. And lastly, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not weird at all and 10 super weird, how weird are you?
I don't think I'm weird at all. I really don't. I don't know how
So
to
1?
to compare it even to anyone. I think I'm pretty balanced, but obviously this question need to be asked with someone else who see me from outside rather than see myself. Because I've never been anyone else. No, I can't compare.
Okay.
And nobody ever asked me a question like that. It's quite interesting. Now you made me thinking.
Well, now you can think about it.
Yeah, I do.
Let's go back to your beginnings. Tell me briefly about where did you grow up and how did you come to discover art for yourself?
Quite interesting question. I was born in Yemen to Jewish family, and my family emigrated to Israel when I was 5 months old. So, in many ways, I was brought up as Israeli. My education was there, and I always felt attracted to draw and to paint. As a kid, I was like the painter of the class, and then the school, and then youth movements that I joined, socialist youth movement. But I had a quite good influence from my parents, and particularly from my dad. My father is 98 now. Until a year ago, my father was still working. He's a jeweler, and he's quite well
Wow.
known and established and respected jeweler in Israel. And last year, I had the first time exhibition with him in a museum in Tel Aviv. My father, like all people who came from Yemen, were religious people. And it's quite interesting the openness from religious parents who brought us up, 5 kids, and the oldest one, in a way to choose our path in life, not to impose their religion. And I remember my father noticed that I'm attracted to the art and to painting. He bought me a series of books of classical painters where you have there, like picture of naked people that he wouldn't be able even to see. But he know it was quite important, took me to exhibition in museum when I was a kid. And also in the evening, he was teaching the profession of jewelry to some people. And I remember there was a couple, American couple who live in Israel, both painters. And when he realized that both of them painters, he said, one of you will not pay the fees of your tuition here and teach my son to paint. I was a teenager, and that's how I prepare my file, to the art school through him. And interesting, and I have not heard from these men for more than 50 years. When I put in Facebook a picture of the show of me and my dad and a mutual exhibition, he wrote to me from New Mexico, telling me how much he enjoyed studying there. He's not jeweler, but he's a painter, and that was quite closing circle. So I had this kind of upbringing at home, encouraging me to do anything I want concerning that.
Yeah.
Only when I went to art school, I discovered that I was more interested in sculpture. I never done sculpture before, but at second year, it was for sure that that's what I want to do. I went to Art Academy in Jerusalem. Initially, they did not accept me to the interview, but with some pressure from the boss of my dad with the company that she was on the board, I was accepted. And at the end of first year, they told me I surprised them. And then I went to second year, and the second year I had the highest marks in the class of 35 students. And I found myself by the end of the year kicked out from the school and could not finish the 4 years. And years later, I spoke with Anish Kapoor, and he said to me, "You at least you were accepted. They did not even accept me in the interview. I'm in a good company." And
Yeah. So, how did you make your way into London?
so that's a very good question because that became the fate of my life. I did not know what to do. It was the best school we had in Israel, and I didn't want to go to a less good school. And I remember as a kid, a friend of my father who lived in England, he was a sculptor and designer that worked with my dad on several projects. And he saw me as a kid painting as a teenager. And he said, one day, if you ever would be interested in doing sculpture, you can always come and be my assistant or study in England. So I remember that years later, I dropped him a line and made a phone call. He said, yes, I have some work for you. I was a soldier at that time. In Israel, all men had to serve from 18 to 21. And unfortunately, I had to do that like everybody else. And a war broke in 1973 with Israel, Egypt, and Syria. It's no civilian involved, just armies. And I found myself being called and found myself fighting in Suez Canal in Egypt. So I was going to go in October 73. I ended up coming to England after the war, March 74. I worked with him for a few months, and then I felt I need to go back to art school. My English was completely forgotten. I did not use it since high school. I could quote Shakespeare, but I couldn't ask the time without seven mistakes. I think it was culture shock for me too. And the guy lived with his family in Berkshire, somewhere between London to Oxford, in the middle of nowhere. It was isolated house and workshop, and it was freezing cold for me, as far as I remember. So when I said I want to go back to school, at least part time, he took me to University of Reading. Reading was just outside London, near us, and he was interpreter for my interview. I didn't even realize I was accepted, and I was part time there, and I did whatever I want, and I don't think I would belong to any year. And 3 months later, after the end of the first term, I asked the head of department if I can move to a full time. They accepted me. The following half year, I was full time in Reading, and I think I achieved in half year something I would not achieve in 4 years. I worked like mad. I didn't have any social activities. I didn't know many people, and my English also blocked me to make that kind of friendship. And used to wake up in the morning, rehearse my English, like try to read in English literature. I think the first book was 1984 by George Orwell, which was every time translating a couple of pages in one. And eventually I finished the year. I did whatever I wanted, but I had fantastic reviews and criticism from teachers who come from good art school in London. At the end of the year, the head of the department came to me and he said, "What you going to do?" I said, "I don't know. I think I'll go back to Israel." And he said, "Well, I think you should do master degree either in the United States or in London." And I said, "But who would take me to a master degree? I didn't have even BA degree." And he didn't say anything. One day came head of department of a master program from Chelsea School of Art. And after he reviewed my work, he said, "Why don't you go to St. Martin School of Art?" And St. Martin for me was like a dream that you cannot really realize in many ways. Even when I was in Israel, I knew about the teachers. And he said that they accept 12 people and six teachers, and they're all quite well established and international. And I think you have a chance to be exceptional because I do that, and I'm sure they have the same policy. So the next day I went to interview. I was accepted on the spot. And I was quite excited and nervous even. And the head of department assured me that I will do very well. And this was the first stage. From there, my life concerning sculpture changed completely.
How did you get into making the kind of installations and metal work that you are known for today?
So to carry on what happened at St. Martin before I arrived to the installation, I looked at the teacher works and also what students were accepted. It was in mid 70s, 1975, and it was dominated that time, the sculpture in England and especially in London, led by the abstract expressionist work led by Anthony Caro, Philip King, William Tucker. They were my teachers and it was kind of abstract expressionist work. And in a way, I never had that kind of experience in my life. And more than that, I did not even know how to weld. And they all work in metal, all of them, all the teachers. There were only four places that you could work in metal in the school. The rest of the spaces were wooden floor, so you couldn't do much there. You couldn't do welding there because of safety. So what the student did, they work in wood and they painted it in a brown color, like seemingly that's metal. And I rushed downstairs to the basement. I took one corner and I asked a technician to teach me how to weld quickly. And I was working in metal. And because I had no experience, I think my work was a bit hazardous at the beginning. I remember every 2 weeks we have a big review, and I was presenting artwork, and one of them fell down and broken and almost hit one of my teacher. But luckily, I was studying with people who experienced with that job and know that it can happen. Nothing luckily happened, but it just showed that I tried and tried, and I noticed that most of the reviews and the argument went around my sculptures from all the class, and I did not understand half of what they were saying because the terminology in English was completely different to the one that I studied in the books. I used to write down all the words that I did not understand. I wanted to know what was the argument between the teachers about my work. And then I found out that the younger teacher always said this kind of artwork, the abstract expressionist work, should come from intuition only. You have to be very intuitive by putting the pieces and the older people, like Philip King, and they said, no, intuition is one thing that you have to have, but you have to have idea behind that kind of intuition. Even it look abstract, but it's idea, gravity, and all that kind of thing, optical illusion. And apparently, my work, because I was ignorant in a way, I didn't have the background. My work had the two. It was very intuitive but always idea behind it. And each of the teachers was pulling or pushing to its own direction. By the end of the year, my English improved a bit. I was offered to teach. I taught at St. Martin for 5 years. So 2 years in England, I found myself first time on my own and asking question what I'm doing here. Until then, I was very busy with projects and school, survivals, all that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
and also doing projects that people tell me what to do or at least the direction. My choice at the time to do that kind of abstract expressionist work was because I felt that if I do other work, nobody can help me to progress because that's the type of work they do and that's the type of work that they would teach. And unfortunately, it was limited, but I said to myself, learn the language and you can decide what you want to do with it later. But at least get the highest teaching or standard or studying, highest level that you can from these people who are the most known with their own field. And that's what I did at the time. Later on, as a teacher, course, my attitude was completely different. I looked at the student's work and I tried to understand the student, what he tried to do, and to help him to progress with his own direction, his own experience, his own way at looking at the world, rather than imposing my work on him. If a student would do work like mine, I know I failed. I taught him to look at me, not at himself.
Did the teaching also help you figure out your own practice?
Exactly. It's a lot. You know, you learn, you see how people think, and especially I found myself attracted to the outcasts, to people who were different, to people who did not follow, the school main direction of making those kind of abstract metal sculpture. Everybody that tried to go beyond that kind of limitation and border did not get much attention. I find myself attracted to that person and intrigued also and try to help him or her to find his own direction and world. Now I'm coming to the installation. The first time that I found myself almost lost, first time I was thinking what I'm doing in this country, what I'm doing here. First time I did not program or plan every day to go to school. I had the studio and I had to go to the studio. Now the question is whether to carry on with this kind of metal thing, to be a follower of Caro, or to look deep inside at myself. Now, I think being outside, finding myself, speaking a language that I don't feel it, I cannot invent words in language, only I can make mistakes. And also, the food is not exactly the food I grew up with, you know. Also, the culture, looking at the culture, it's a culture of restraint. The more you restrain yourself, the more you are cultured and polite. And this kind of thing was new to me, was very, very different. Even going to the park and seeing the greenery, green color, which is to me almost artificial, so beautiful, so strong. When I come in a country where most of the landscape in the Middle East is the desert, and all these kind of things were alien to me, were very different. And I remember one day walking in Oxford Street, I saw this big spotlight made in concrete, inside planted trees. And along the whole street on two sides of the road, and I asked myself, why they don't plant them on the ground? Why they have to be in a pot? I saw it as a metaphor to my life in England. A tree symbolizing for me the nature, symbolize for me organic thing, symbolize for me free feeling, expression of free feeling, and a cube with open top, represent the rationalism, the logic part, the thing that come from the head rather than from the heart. And I found it limiting the growth of the roots of the trees. It has to be within that kind of border and frame. For me, it was a metaphor to the society, the European society, the society I'm in, that the rational and the logic part suffocating the emotional part. My studio that time was in Southeast London in Greenwich. I was in a complex of 24 artists. I was the only foreigner there. They're all English people. And near Greenwich Park, I remember that time was a elm disease. A lot of the trees dying and they cut them down. So I took a lot of trees, branches of trees and trunks, and I created columns from concrete up to 2 meters, narrow columns, and I cast or stuck dead branches in them. And I made that first installation in, I think it was 1980 or something like that, probably the first one man show that I had. And it was, you enter the room, first, like let's say the lower half, it's like a forest, urban forest of concrete column. The top half on top was like a dead forest. This was My first installation took me to things that I do even now, to look at the world through our environment, to look at the world through nature, using the nature as a metaphor, human being attitude. And that's how I did. That's the work completely changed. It moved after that to use animal. I didn't use human being first, not figurative, but I used animals as metaphor to human attitude, animal images. For instance, as a kid, I loved reading fables. I was attracted to Aesop fables, Pillow fables. The little animal, in order to survive, had to use its cunning, its own brain, and not muscle and power to survive. And I was a kid. I was like the smallest boy in the class, and always there was a fear of bullying. But I never been bullied. I was lucky, but the fear was there, and the symbol and metaphor of animals, how small they are, how they survive. It gave me kind of horizon for the future to say, oh, well, there's always a way to survive, even if you are small. So my first sculptures in the 80s were dominated by images of animal that express the cycle of life. For instance, one of the pieces that I did was an antelope lying on its back, stretching one of its legs, and at the edge of it, there's a kangaroo, a little kangaroo. This piece remind me when I was a child. I was living in a small town near Tel Aviv, surrounded by fields and orange groves. And I always wonder what happened to stray cats and dogs when they die? Where are they? And I found in a remote field quite a few of them. I don't know if people just threw them there, but for me, a dead animal is a kind of gray color lying on its back. And that's what I did. The antelope was gray, very big, lying on its back, stretching one hand, and a small kangaroo leaping out. And the kangaroo is a red, bright color. So that was a kind of circle of life, death and rebirth, something that occupied my thoughts for quite a while. This work showed in Venice Biennale in '88, and now it belongs to the museum, the Krula Mola, Holland.
And were those sculptures already made of metal?
Yeah, inside there was a metal structure covered by mesh, and then I took cement, mix it with sand, and mix it with a color pigment powder. I mix it together so I could get the right color I wanted, whether it's brown, whether it's this. But the kangaroo itself, I use car body filler. It's a kind of resin, and I could paint it, and I sprayed a bright fluorescent color on it.
So
So
that was the work that you represented Israel with at Venice.
yeah, yeah, this kind of work, it was around cycle of life. There were three-dimensional work, including some flat section that led later on to completely flat artwork. But there were a combination. Some of them were completely three dimensions. Some of them start having part flat and part 3D. The work in the 80s was very, very colorful. The color had a special meaning to me at the time. And that's led to later on to use human figure. I did not use human figure much during that time because I used it as a metaphor to human without showing the human, just human attitude as a symbol, humanizing the animals in many ways, just like the fables. And I think the last work that I did that combined the two was the evolution and like Darwin evolution from man to animal. And I made a piece which each one holding part of the rope. It's a long and it's about 11 meter. And a year before, I went to Thailand for holiday, and I found myself in Koh Samui Island long before it's become very touristic. And the family that met in the bungalow had a monkey. The monkey had a chain, and then I remember I held the chain one day, and the monkey was pushing me to go to the trees, and I tried to push him to go to the beach, and somebody photographed it for me, and that image ended up with the installation that it's a kind of cycle, that there is still an animal and beast in our lives that still can pull us, to that direction. Although we have the progression from the ape to human being, still there's something there that can take us back. And that's kind of metaphor to later on to wars and things, that kind of instinct that is not very logical in the world.
Hey, I want to quickly share a resource that makes this podcast possible. It's a program called Descript. That's what I use to record, edit, create transcripts, and so much more. Honestly, I don't know if I could do this podcast without it. If you do any editing at all, you'll definitely want to check it out. With Descript, you're not just editing abstract waveforms, but the actual script, like in a Word document. And repurposing content is really easy, for example, to turn long-form video into vertical social media clips. Check out the link I've put in the show notes or on our website to try it out for yourself. When you make the work, do you build everything yourself?
At the beginning, for instance, the first installation in the 80s, all the work up to Venice Biennale and even a bit later, all the work till the 90s, I did myself, just myself alone in the studio. As my idea progressed into larger and larger installation, I started getting one assistant at a time, until I would say until year 2000 or 2003, and one assistant in the studio. The vast number of assistant or helper that grow is when I did the installation blood field of the flowers. I started painting, and painted maybe a couple hundred. Suddenly realized that I want to make thousands of them, and I didn't want to spend all my life sitting and painting flowers. So I advertised and got some young artists, hired them for 2 days a week each because I wanted a variety. And at one time, the studio contained 16 young people who painted flowers for 2 or 3 years.
3 years. How many flowers are there now?
30,000 of them.
And they're all unique.
They're all unique. There are 900 different
Wow.
species that I collected from old books, encyclopedia. And for 6 months, I was working with magnifying glass, making sure that all the lines are connected. If they are not connected, I can't etch them. So there are 900 different ones. So if you go to the black side of them, you can see the repetition in some of them. If you go to the color side, because they are freely colored, they're not loyal to the flower. There's a freedom there. I told my team, you can choose any color you want, as long as you don't make abstract painting on the flowers. I want it to be recognized as a flower. I don't mind even if the stem will look purple. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
As long as it looks like flower. And that's why I have this kind of variety. At the moment, the flowers are exhibited in China, about 11,000 of them. They're on the way back now. It's just finishing. And then I'm going to have a big show in Japan. So it's going to be in Japan in February. It showed now in Rome in a big show called Flowers from Renaissance to AI in a museum in Rome. It's a touring exhibition going in March to the Kunsthalle of Rotterdam. So there is a sudden, almost 17, 18 years after I exhibited the first small installation of that, there's a big interest now in many museums showing work that related to nature. I also made black flowers, which reaching up to 2 meters high. And this one going to be shown in Shanghai in April next year.
Okay. So people have many opportunities to go see your work in person around the world.
Yeah. I'm lucky more than that, that I have to go in person myself to those places around the world to install them. I think if I was,
Are you always
yeah,
present personally when your work is being installed?
yeah, I'm installing them
Wow.
myself, flower one by one,
Wow.
on my knees, and that take long time. And because every installation that I do, it's like I'm recreating a new piece of work. Sometimes that can be in circle, can be in rectangular, and in line. It's everywhere is something new for me. In some places, it can take, like now I had the biggest one of the biggest in volunteers, people who helped me was in Uzbekistan, in a national gallery there. Was showing Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Central Asia. It took me to places I would never dream to go. And I had 70 assistants, 35 in the morning, 35 in the afternoon. I had to finish it within a week. Strangest, I would say, assistant I ever had was in Germany. I show a different installation of evolution theory in the Neanderthal Museum outside Düsseldorf. And they brought me prisoners to be my assistant. This kind of experience I never had in my life. And I plan to finish the installation in 8 days. It's finished in 4 days.
Wow, they're efficient.
I feel they had no choice. They had to have a cigarette break every 2 hours or something like that. And they work nonstop. It's all done. Prisoners guard sitting on a chair there. They're all on their knees. And until today, I don't know if I was their punishment or I was a special bonus to them to get out. Until now,
Right.
no idea. So
That's
it
funny.
takes me everywhere. And I think if I was a painter, I was less lucky in a way because I'm not necessarily have to go to the exhibition or to hang, but because of those installation, I have to be everywhere because I install them myself.
Yeah. After an exhibition ends, what happens to the work?
It's been packed and sent, and it's stay in my studio in a crate until the next tour. Right now, I have 26,000 flowers that I'm waiting for them to come from China from two exhibition. And once they arrive, they will not stay long in the studio because they will have to go, as I told you, to other exhibition in Europe.
Do the 26,000 flowers take up a lot of space?
Excellent question. I had one show once. I had a show in Shanghai, and I took 10,000 flowers in my suitcase, and I still had a room for
In
my
your
clothes.
suitcase.
I still had a room for
Wow.
my clothes. You know,
How much do 10,000 flowers weigh?
maybe 7 kilo, 10 kilo maximum. 7 kilo.
Amazing. You've planned very well.
Yeah, carefully planned. You know, some other installation, like evolution and theory, contain 250 sculpture hand cut from aluminium. Few of them almost reach 3 meter high. These
Yeah.
that's the biggest crate, but it also take about 400 square meter space for the installation. So it need quite a lot of space.
Tell me about the how you approach the commercial aspect of your work. Like, for example, I'm assuming that the Blackfield work or people I saw and never met, the individual pieces from that are not for sale. So, talk to me about the selling of the installations or individual works.
It's a very good question because as you can see, the expenditure for those installations is very high. It's quite costly. I found a way almost accidentally how to maintain enlarging the installation or continuing even with new installation with a budget that I need. For instance, if I start with the flower, because the flower is the one that took most of the budget to make them, my original idea was to build a mirror on the wall. And when you enter the room, the space, you see black flowers, and they will be reflected on that large mirror, and then you can see the color. But then I thought I wanted people to have a kind of a journey to discover the color themselves, moving from the black to the color rather than to see it at the same time. So what happened was that I did that kind of installation, but I made small boxes from 50 to 100 flowers. In the back of the box, there is a mirror, and you can hang this box on the wall, and you see the reflection of the color at the same time. But this is a kind of byproduct, from the installation. And this can sell 20, 30,000 pounds. And they are all unique. They are not edition, each one different. And luckily, I sold quite a few of these. And these what subsidized and paid for hiring more and more people for work. The same thing happened with people I saw, but I never met. People I saw never met is a big installation. Right now, it's contain almost 10,000 miniatures of people from 22 countries around the world. Now, this work, I enlarge some of the figures and they become monumental, like 5, 6 meters high. One of them, by the way, in Point Lee in Australia, it was shown sculpture by the sea and was sold from there. Those pieces that they sell in 100,000 pounds, they obviously helped me to maintain the expenses of the studio. Those individual figures that I took from people I saw never met, and I added a shadow to them. This kind of work is not in the installation, but it's inspired by some figure from the installation and took it one step ahead. Talking about that installation, this is the first time that I move completely to use just figurative, just figures. The installation that is not flowers or scientific elements or evolution, just figures. I found myself traveling to many countries that I've never dreamt to be in because of my work and meeting a lot of people from different culture, different religion, and I also saw them not as a tourist that coming and just see all the beautiful site specific places and because they work with me. When people work with you, you socialize with them, you even go to their home sometime and you get to know them differently. I always give myself few more days to travel the country as a tourist, but most of my experience from country is very different. And I wanted to do something with it. And in the year 2015, I had a show in Central Asia, in the National Museum, new National Museum of Kazakhstan. I never been to that area before. And first time in my life that I saw people who were white and also they had eyes, like the Far East, and they were Muslim. And for someone who come from Middle East, that the Muslim are darker and Arab and thing, it was a wonder. It was something I never experienced. And I said to myself, I really want to do something with that. Start taking photograph of them. I went to the market and in the market, I started taking photo of people buying tomatoes, buying groceries, but it was not really interesting. I wanted something more contemporary action. I went to the street and I saw a man talking on the phone. I said, "Oh well, that's quite interesting. It's something that relevant to our life nowadays." I took picture of him from distant people. By the way, they don't even know that I take photo of them. I want to be more spontaneous, at least from their side. So I focused with telephone, with a mobile phone or something, or iPad. And I turned my head to the side and then I click, so I got a natural look. And then the next person I saw doing the same thing, and the next person, and people talk. You go to a cafe, couple facing each other, always on the phone. And I found this quite interesting. I found it in many countries. I found that something global, and I found that the more the level of the communication, the technology being developed is the less real between people there is, and we have thousands of friends that we never saw in our lives. We know what they eat, what they like, what they do. We will never see them again, and that's come on account of really spending time with really close friends. And that came across from this. And I found this installation. First time I showed it in Australia in a Arlington Gallery. It was in year, I think, 2016 or something. I had 2,000 of them, but then it went to Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, I had already 3,000. And this is when it came to the knowledge of many, many people around the world, luckily. I made a 60-second video and put it in Instagram, and one art account, took it. And within 4 days, there was 1.3 million views around the world. And we started getting from Russia, from Iran, from Japan, from New York, more and more material. And the first time I noticed people were reviewing shows that they never seen, only based on 60 seconds of video. And when it arrived to Los Angeles, it was 2017 in March. Trump was in power for already 2 months. And the topic at the time was immigrants and refugees, people who crossed the border from Mexico. And he was talking of building a wall in between the two countries. The media, when they saw this and they see people dressed in a traditional kimono, like Japanese dress, or they see Muslim covering their face, they immediately think of immigrants, despite the fact that I took the picture in their own country. They're not immigrants, you know, but it just tell us a lot about ourselves, about the way that we see other people as alien, as foreigner. And a year later, or 2 years, 2019, I think, it was shown in Siberia, in middle of Siberia, in a biennale that they invited me there. They say, we were going to give you the biggest space. The only problem is the museum was built in 1987, 4 years before the Soviet Union dismantled, and it was named after Lenin. And we have a big sculpture of Lenin, his wife, and four comrades right in the heart of the indoor space, about 8 meters bronze piece. We can't move it. We are scared to move it even to the yard and everything. Would you like us to cover it in a box or to leave it? So I said, no problem. I went there to have a look, and I saw that there's a space between the legs and you can see the other side of the installation. I said, leave it. And what the press said, Lenin looking at the masses of people, because the installation was thousands of miniatures on the ground. And when it arrived to Tel Aviv, that time was at the end of the corona. People were coming with masks. And when you see installation of thousands of people, 6,000 miniatures, they all keep the same distance from each other. They're all on the same planet, you know, and all in the same problem, understand? So obviously related to the COVID-19 that. So it's relevant everywhere where it goes.
Yeah, it's very universal.
Human is something universal, and
Yeah.
although my work is around nature, and we tend to forget that we are part of the nature, we exploit the nature in many ways, which is really, really sad. Even the awareness that we have now is almost too late for this. Other installations I have. which I'm going to show it in my next show in Japan. It's called The Other Side of Midnight. The Other Side of Midnight is a circle of butterfly in the front and cockroaches in the back. And again, the original one was made in 2012. And then I made a better version for a show that I had in Perth, part of a festival that was in Perth in 2018. And we all like butterfly. I never met anyone who said, "Oh, I don't like." Even though sometime when I give a talk, there's always a person said, "I don't like butterfly," but we like chasing them. We don't mind if they sit on our nose or our face anywhere on our palm. In fact, they can stay as long as they wish. And we even want to catch them. The other insects, like cockroaches or other insects, we are not only disgusted from them, we really want to kill them, we run away from them, we scream, when we see them. Can you imagine a butterfly sit on your palm and you enjoy it and you don't want it to fly away? And suddenly the wing drop and you are left with the type of insects that you want to kill. And that's raising question what we are attracted to the exterior, you know, judgment. It's about judgment and all this. Suddenly, the touch on our palm, that it was so gentle, we almost never felt it. Without the wing, it's disgusting. It's hurting. So this is another example of using metaphor to animals, to insects in this case, to our attitude, the way we see the world.
With the flowers and the people, are you still making new figures today?
Yeah, I still make a new figure, not with the flowers or butterflies, but only with the people. This is an ongoing. I told myself at one point that I want to reach 10,000. I'm closing to reach 10,000, but I know I'm going to travel to quite a few other countries in the near future. So I would like to add more, but this is in parallel to artwork that I do now. I always keep old installation as something that ongoing, but always look for something new to excite me and also to advance. Like my current installation, I haven't finished it yet, but I'm right in the middle of it, is about extinct animals and extinct plants and birds. And the installation I'm planning to have is extinct birds. I collected them from old cyclopedia, and most of them are drawn in such a way that they're just standing on their 2 feet. They don't fly. And using the I asked to make them fly. So they look flying, and sometimes I kind of redesign them. I want to see the other wing if it doesn't show, and all that kind of thing. And I want to show them in a dark room and using the ultraviolet, the UV light, the same like I do with the other side of midnight. So you enter a dark room, it will be hung by a single string, black one, and there are flat pieces made of metal that can be from 20 centimeter to half meter, some of them on the floor, one side of them painted black and one side of them painted white. Now, with the UV light, and they are, because they hang on one string, they're twisted sometime. If they don't twist, I can use a fan or something to make a little wind. And and then sometimes you see them and sometimes they disappear because of the black side. When the black side appear, they vanish. When they white, it become kind of bluish. This is the beginning, and I'm
Hmm.
making them now. I made most of them already. I'm trying to use the darkest black that I can use, to make it disappear. So experimenting on that, and that's the next project. to
Did,
bring
did Anish Kapoor share the blackest black with you?
I think he bought it. I got the one he didn't let any other artist. I knew that this question might come up. Although I know him, I don't even dare ask him. Yeah.
There is an artist in the UK who's also making and selling the blackest black to everyone except for Anish Kapoor.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Now you told me that. If you know the name, send it to me. But I will.
Yeah,
I will Google.
his name is Stuart Semple, but I can send it to
Yeah,
you
send
later.
it to me. And because I'm searching, I already got something, but it's 99% black, and it's not enough. It's not enough.
Right. Okay. Well, hopefully this can help you out. Do you have any behind the scenes stories of when something wasn't working during like your production process or installation or exhibition?
There are a few cases like that. I would say, for instance, when I showed in Uzbekistan, I asked them to prepare certain color and also grade of sand because I use special sand on the floor, and they got, let's say, like ton of sand, and apparently they placed it outside, and it was raining, and the whole sand become wet, and I couldn't use it, and I had like a couple days to and I traveled the country to quarries, to places, to find sand, and that was a bit delay that made me working a lot. There's other incidents is that obviously, and that's happened to me twice last year in China. And the work arrived. Let's say if I had to install for 2 weeks, and then 26,000 flowers in Beijing, 2 weeks work with 50 assistants, and the work did not arrive, although we gave it a month before.
Wow.
And I lost a week. So I had to finish in 6 days, work of 2 weeks. So I worked from 9 o'clock. That was last year, from 9 o'clock until 5 with a student, and from 5 till 11 with the staff of the museum. So on my knees
Mm.
for a long time. There's
Out.
there's one thing which relate to Australia. The big boy sculpture was supposed
Yeah.
to be shown in Sydney in the sculpture by the sea. It was shipped from Portugal. I have two studios, one in London and one in Portugal. In Portugal, I mainly make the outdoor art sculpture, and it was shipped by a Korean company that is one of the, apparently, according to what I read later in the newspaper, it was ranking number 7 biggest company in the world, is bankrupted halfway through, and in the sea, it's stuck there, and nobody wanted to let them dock because they owed like $25 billion. The seamen and all the crew stuck for 2 months, in the boat in Andes. They couldn't really dock anywhere. The food was almost finishing, and until the government of Korea, they didn't want to have the shame on them, and it probably would affect other businesses. They paid for it to every boat to dock on the nearest port, and that was the nearest one was Singapore. So it arrived late, and they decided to show it only in Perth, the next venue, a few months later. And it never showed in Sydney, but luckily it was bought, and it's in Australia, in Point Lee, in Culture Park.
Okay. I would actually like to talk a bit about the public art aspect of your practice as well, because you've made quite a few outdoor sculptures now. And tell me a bit about how your process differs, or like, how is it different from making works for inside the gallery?
It's very, very good question, because when you walk to something inside the gallery, you're completely free. You don't really think of any other aspect that might restrict you, and kind of limitation of background, weather, all that kind of thing. And also safety, something that should be secure for long. And there's a lot of things that can affect the type of work that you are doing and the size of them, the durability, the material, and everything. So, what I do in the gallery, for instance, the gallery itself, I don't even think about the gallery. It's my studio. So I try to be as close to my idea without compromising anything, just to stick to the idea. Now, when it comes to public artwork, I often get approached, can you do this and that type of sculpture? If it doesn't correspond with what I do anyway, that I can enlarge certain artwork that I did, is go along my philosophy, the way I see the world, I don't take it. And I had a couple of cases, for instance, I don't want to name, but something in California, they wanted to commemorate a massacre somewhere there in South California. And they approached me to enter a competition. They approached 5 sculptors and 2 landscape designers. They want to commemorate this. So my idea was to have like 8 meter tree and vertically divided. The right side of the tree is in the autumn. It just show the branches. The left side of the tree contain only figures and almost show the spring. It's like a cycle of life and changing of season. And I see it as a hopeful thing. So when I went there to present it, it had the largest committee I ever saw in my life. There are 20 people judging it. I stood there and I presented the work. And then I showed the background for this work. And I also showed the field of the flower, black field. And I showed the optimism that can come, from moving from one season to another, from black field that can represent burning, war, everything, destruction, into more hopeful time. So this committee involved people from completely different fields. There could be the head of the police, there could be the chief of fire brigade, and the only one person from museum. And the rest of them relative of victims. And one of them stood up and she said, I really like your proposal, but I really want the figures to be painted. I want to see color. And I tried to explain to her that it's not about it. It will be superficial. The metal, the cotton steel is very strong. And also it changed color itself, from orange to dark and everything. And then I received a letter a week later that all of them want my work if I add color to it. And that was almost $1 million US dollar. And I said no.
Wow.
And I said no. And that was it. So you have to really, really stick to no amount of money was the feeling that you kind of prostitute yourself in a way, you know?
Yeah.
That's experience.
That's powerful advice, actually, but a very hard decision to make.
But I didn't feel hard in a way. I felt I was close to get it, but it wasn't hard for me to say. I wasn't really even contemplating or hesitating. I tried to show them. I took a piece of cotton steel, which was when you clean it, sandblast it, it becomes gray. And then you put some water on it, and it gets the nicest color of orange. And gradually, if you leave it, the orange become brown and dark brown. But if you want to keep, or at least half of the sculpture, to keep in this bright orange, you can varnish it, put some clear varnish, and that will keep it. It would not change the color. And this is the maximum I could go. And I sent them a sample of that. I said, take it or leave it. I'm staying with the material. I'm not painting. And eventually they end up with a stone marking the medal. They didn't choose.
Interesting. I think also probably from longevity perspective, your way is a lot better and more durable in the sense that it will last the test of time, whereas painting an outdoor sculpture is like a whole different beast. and set of complications.
And I personally believe that something else will come up. I'm very optimistic. So not to worry, because living with that kind of compromise is worse than getting this kind of money. And then what will be next? When someone tells you you already compromised, why you don't compromise now? You know, it's like taking you down very, very quickly.
What would you say has been the proudest moment of your career so far for you?
When I showed the installation of flowers in Los Angeles in 2009, I had a call from the gallery, and the director said to me, "There's an old man that kept coming here 5 times, already saw the installation, and he asked if he can call you." I said, "Of course, no problem." The man called me. He told me he's a Jewish man from Los Angeles. He had a friend. She's survivor from the Holocaust, and she came at 17 years old to America without family. She met a man, she fell in love. She had a fantastic life. And her husband died a few weeks before. She sit at home and she cried and she said that her life ended. Without him, she could not live any longer. He said, I tried to persuade her to come and see the installation. And I just want to tell you that about a week ago, she agreed to come. She came, she went through the black side, then she saw the color. She sat down and wept, started crying. Said she went out of the gallery. She changed. She started going out, started smiling. And he said, we just wanted to tell you that. It's important for me to tell you. And for me, if I manage to help one person to change the life, without even knowing, that's worth everything. And
Yeah.
I never, ever thought that art can have that kind of effect on people until I saw some people in tears with that. I never intended to do that. I never thought it would even reach that kind of point. But if I can bring that kind of joy to people in life, optimism, this is the best reward ever.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I definitely believe in the healing powers of art.
Yeah. I believe since then, I would like 18 years now, and I believe in that.
If you could wave a magic wand and make any project happen, regardless of geography, financial restraints, anything, what would you want to make?
I want to make something that no sculptor in the world can do is to use the space without restriction. But we are always connected by gravity and things. Unlike painter, that I envy painters. Maybe this is one of the reasons that I paint. I keep on going back of guilty conscience. A painter, when he wants to toss someone in the air, he just draw a horizon and he can put someone flying in the air. We can't do that.
Yeah.
And this is one thing. I wish you can do this. I know I can do it with magnets. Can do it with all kind of tricks, but that's not freedom. This kind of thing, I wish that I have a space in the studio and I can toss things in the air and place them wherever I want, and they will stay there.
You want to defy gravity.
Yeah, just to give me more possibilities.
Somebody suggested I should ask this from people because we were talking to an artist friend about ideas we've had that we never made. Do you have an idea for work that you never intend to make, that you're comfortable sharing so that maybe somebody else can get inspired and bring it to life?
Not easy question. I never really thought about that. But I would say that the video that I'm making, which I don't know that you're aware to them, are things that can open up to almost everyone to create something in the simplest and most direct way without really spending time too much in the studio and everything. Everybody can photograph, nowadays and can have high quality of video shots. This is something that I wish people can do more, show more humanity through the artwork and effects and showing. I mean, nowadays you can see it more and more in social media. Unfortunately, some of them going bad direction, but still quite interesting. I think generally everybody can be in this in that kind of way. Take the camera in the hand and use it.
Yeah. What advice would you give to an artist who is just getting into installation right now?
I think the best advice that I can say, I assume that a young artist does not have means to make installation like what I did in a way that you mean spending a lot of resources and money and involving other people. I think it should start from something that is surrounding him. And I think nature, or even, take stones, branches, trees, everything around us, it's really free. It doesn't really cost much, you know, and just to start thinking how it can be translated and use it into your idea, even through metaphor or symbol or something to start with. This is like starting from no excuse. No excuse. I don't have the means. I don't have this. I don't have the space. I don't have this. Do it outside. Do it this. Start from something that you can see around you and try to express yourself through this kind of free material that's given to you. And that's the beginning. And I think once you have one thing that you are happy with, because nothing is completed, everything is part of a long process. But you see from here, and you want to make something larger than that, and gradually you get it step by step progress with what you have. I don't know if it understood what I said, because
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
this is how I started. And I took from the park and I saw there was a disease and I took advantage of the disease into immortalize it in a way, through other artwork. So I can only suggest something that I experienced myself.
Yeah. Well, tell us quickly about where can people see more of your work, find out more, maybe buy some work?
Yeah, right now, the next show I'm going to have in GYRE. It's a kind of foundation in Japan. They recently had a show of Anish Kapoor there also, and Joseph Boyce, and it's a great opportunity for me to have a very big exhibition there, that which will open on the 14th to the public of February till 18th of April, and I will be showing a lot of the work that we discuss here. There will be a small piece of black field with the flowers. There will be the other side of midnight. There will be a couple of video work, and there will be work that hang on the wall and on the floor, individual pieces. The show that I mentioned earlier, Flowers, that is still in Rome until January. It's in a museum called Chiostro del Bramante, and this is in the heart of Rome. This is a touring show. There are quite well-known artists, less known also, like Andrea Gurski, Ai Weiwei, and I have a small installation of Blackfielder, and this one is touring to the Kunsthal of Rotterdam, a beautiful museum, and that will be open on 27th of March. The 26th, there is an extension of, and it will stay also in Rome, but in different way. They're adding 2 rooms to my work, to the installation. My installation stay there, and the one I do in Rotterdam will be other flowers that I have, but they're going to have other work of mine in 2 rooms, including 1 room video installation. And in April, going to be a show in Natural History Museum in Shanghai and shows about trees, about nature. And then I will show big black flowers, probably 9, 10 large flowers up to 2 meters high, and it's a group show.
Wow, a lot coming up for you.
Quite busy. Yeah. Now everybody can reach me through the website, zadokbendavid.com, and they can inquire about work. And if they are from United States, I can send them to certain gallery. If they're coming to London, they can approach me. So this is the best way.
Okay, well, I will put the links to them all in the show notes so that people can easily find you.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Well, great, Zadok. Thank you very much for this in-depth conversation. It was very interesting, and thank you for taking the time to do this.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. And it was my pleasure to share my experience. And if help anyone in the world, it's my pleasure and it's my gratitude.
That was Zadok Ben-David, based in London and Portugal. You can find out more about his work on his website, zadokbendavid.com, and follow him on Instagram at Zadok Studio. And if you're in Tokyo, you can go and see his work in person at Gyre in Shibuya between the 13th of February and 18th of April 2026. There's also going to be a show at Kunsthalle in Rotterdam, opening 27th of March 2026, and an exhibition of his legendary Blackfield in Rome in Chioso del Bramante. Links to all those, as well as everyone mentioned in this episode, are in the show notes and on our website, installationartpodcast.com. If you enjoyed this episode, the best way to support the show is to follow or subscribe wherever you're listening right now. Most of our listeners aren't yet subscribed, and hitting that button really helps the podcast grow and reach more people. Thank you for listening and for subscribing, and until next time.